Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we are turning our attention to a figure who, quite honestly, I think we all feel like we know.
Oh, for sure.
If you walk down the street right now and asked 100 people to name a cellist, just one,
I know exactly where you're going with this.
I would bet my entire savings that 99 of them give you the same name.
It's instantaneous recognition. He is the instrument to so many people.
Exactly. But here's the thing. As I was going through this massive stack of research you brought in, I had this realization.
Yeah.
I know the name.
Yeah.
I know the brand. I know the image of the guy hugging the cello with that, beatific smile. But I realized I actually don't know the human being at all.
That is the paradox, isn't it? When you become a true cultural icon, you become a logo.
Right.
You become a symbol for classy high art, and the actual person gets sort of lost behind the pedestal.
That's it.
So today, we're going to try to take him off that pedestal and see who he actually is. We are talking, of course, about Yo-Yo Ma.
And usually, when you think of a classical musician, you have a very specific mental image, right?
Okay.
You think of tuxedos, you think of stiff collars, you think of a very serious, hushed atmosphere in a concert hall where you are, like, terrified to cough because 50 people will glare at you.
The ivory tower of classical music.
Right. But looking at his life, Yo-Yo Ma feels completely different. He feels almost like, I don't know, the Forrest Gump of the last half-century of cultural history.
That is a vivid comparison. I am intrigued. What do you mean by that?
I mean it in the best way possible. He just seems to be everywhere.
Uh-huh.
If there has been a major American moment in the last 40 years, a national tragedy, a massive celebration, a huge political transition, Yo-Yo Ma is there in the background, usually just sitting on a chair with a cello.
It's surprisingly accurate. He has this uncanny ability to be right at the center of the zeitgeist.
He really does.
And the stats, they back it up. We aren't just talking about a successful musician here.
No, not even close.
We are talking about 19 Grammy Awards, over 90 albums.
That number blew my mind. 90 albums. Most pop stars struggle to get out, 5 decent ones before they fade away?
And the longevity is what's truly wild. He has performed for 9 American presidents.
9. That is just a staggering number.
Starting with Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. That feels like ancient history. That's, black and white television era.
And going all the way up to Joe Biden. That is a career span of over 6 decades performing at the absolute highest level.
Wow.
There are very few people in any field, let alone the arts, who have that kind of staying power.
So our mission today isn't just to list his albums or talk about how pretty the cello sounds, because frankly, we'd be here for a week.
Right.
We want to figure out the how. How does a child prodigy, and we know how tragic those stories usually end, manage to avoid burning out? How does he evolve into what he calls a citizen musician?
Exactly. We need to move beyond the biography and look at the philosophy. And the key to understanding that, the lens I want us to use for this entire deep dive, is actually a decision he made in the 1970s. It wasn't a musical decision. It was an academic one.
This was the part of the research that surprised me the most. It feels like such a left turn.
It is. We aren't just looking at a cellist today.
Oh.
We are looking at an anthropologist.
An anthropologist with a cello. I love that framework. So let's go back to the start. Let's unpack the origin story. Because usually when we hear classical prodigy, we assume a very specific, rigid upbringing.
Right, a tiger parent situation.
Yeah, exactly. Was that the case here?
Well, the pedigree was certainly there. He was born in Paris in 1955. His parents were Chinese immigrants who had moved to France during the chaos of the Chinese Civil War.
Okay.
And the house, it was essentially a conservatory.
So music was the language spoken at the dinner table.
Literally and figuratively. His mother, Marina Liu, was a singer. His father, Hyun Ma, was a violinist, a composer, and a music professor. So, strictly speaking, Yo-Yo didn't really have a choice but to be musical.
It was the family business.
It was the family trade. It's in the DNA.
Right.
And almost immediately, he's showing interest. By age 3, he's dabbling. Violin, piano, viola. But he wasn't satisfied.
I read this anecdote about why he finally settled on the cello, and it made me laugh out loud. It is the most relatable 4-year-old boy reasoning I've ever heard.
It really is. Had nothing to do with the tone or the repertoire or the soulfulness of the instrument.
Nothing at all.
At age 4, he desperately wanted to play the double bass.
The massive one. The one that's basically a piece of furniture.
Exactly. The one that is twice the size of a grown man.
And why? Because of the deep, resonant bass sound.
Nope. Because it was big.
Just because it was big.
He just wanted the biggest toy in the room. He saw this giant wooden object and thought, I want to conquer that.
I can just picture a 4-year-old trying to wrangle a double bass. It would be a disaster. He'd be crushed. It's physically impossible.
Which is exactly what his father thought. But Yo-Yo was insistent, so they had to compromise.
Okay.
His father went to see a famous violin maker in Paris, a man named Etienne Vatelot. They had a chat about the dilemma, and Vatelot came up with a solution. He lent them a 116th size cello.
A 116th cello. I didn't even know they made them that small. That must be tiny.
It's minuscule. It's basically a large viola that you hold between your knees on a little end pin.
Wow.
But to a 4-year-old, it was close enough to the big instrument he wanted. He could sit down with it. It felt substantial.
And that compromise defined the rest of his life.
It did. And clearly it clicked because he got good fast.
Good is a massive understatement.
It is. He was performing for audiences by age 5.
5 years old. I was still trying to figure out how to tie my shoes at 5.
By age 7, the family moves to the United States. First Boston, then New York. And that same year, at age 7, he plays for President Kennedy and President Eisenhower.
I want to pause on that for a second. 7 years old.
7.
He is performing for the leaders of the free world. The pressure must have been unimaginable. Or maybe because he was 7, he didn't even realize the pressure.
That's often the case with prodigies, right? They don't have the self-consciousness yet to be terrified.
That's true.
By all accounts, he just did it. And it wasn't just private recitals. At age 8, he's on American national television.
Wow.
Introduced by Leonard Bernstein.
Leonard Bernstein. West Side Story Leonard Bernstein. The titan of American music.
The very same. And then Isaac Stern introduces him on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. He was a media darling before he even hit puberty.
So, looking at this trajectory, the path seems set in stone. It's the classic prodigy script. You go to Juilliard, you study under a legend, in his case Leonard Rose, you win all the competitions, and then you sit in a chair in an orchestra for 40 years until you retire. That's the life.
That was the script. And he followed it for a while. He went to Juilliard. He even went to Columbia University briefly, but dropped out. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. But then he did something that confused a lot of people in the classical music world.
This is the pivot, the moment where he diverges from that robot prodigy path.
This is it. He enrolled at Harvard College.
Okay, so Harvard is prestigious, obviously. No one is going to knock a Harvard degree.
Of course not.
But for a musician of his caliber, usually you focus 100% on the instrument. You go to a conservatory where you practice 8 hours a day.
Right.
You don't go get a liberal arts degree where you have to write essays and do science labs and read, dense theory.
Precisely. It was seen as a risk, a distraction. His advisors probably told him he was wasting his prime practice years.
I'm sure they did.
And here is the kicker. He didn't even get a music degree.
Right.
In 1976, Yo-Yo Ma graduated with a bachelor's degree in anthropology.
That is the aha moment you mentioned earlier. Why anthropology? Of all the things to study, economics, history, literature, why that?
Well, think about what anthropology actually is.
Okay.
It's the study of humanity. It's looking at our behaviors, our cultures, how we connect, why we build societies, why we tell stories, and crucially, why we make art.
Yeah.
By choosing that major, Ma was signaling something very, very profound about how he saw himself.
What was the signal?
He was signaling that he didn't view music as just dots on a page. He didn't view it as an athletic feat of moving his fingers fast.
Right.
He viewed music as a behavior, a human activity that explains who we are.
So while other cellists were obsessing over perfect intonation or bowing technique, he was thinking about why people wrote this music in the first place.
Exactly. It shaped his entire worldview. It explains everything he did later. It's why he can jump from Bach to bluegrass without it feeling like a cheap gimmick.
Right.
To an anthropologist, Bach and bluegrass are just two different dialects of the same language, the language of human expression.
So he isn't a classical musician visiting other genres like a tourist.
No, not at all. He's a student of culture, using a cello to communicate with the locals. He's doing field work, essentially.
It makes so much sense. It shifts the focus from, look how fast I can play, to look how we connect.
Yes.
And if we're talking about connection, we have to talk about the medium of that connection. We have to talk about the cellos themselves.
The hardware.
The hardware. And in your notes, you've got some incredible stories about these instruments. They seem to have more personality and more drama than most people I know.
They really do. And you have to understand, for a cellist at his level, the instrument isn't just a tool. It's not like a carpenter's hammer.
It's a partner.
It's a partner. It's a living thing. His primary performance instrument is the Davidoff cello. It was made in 1712 by Antonio Stradivari.
The Stradivarius, the holy grail of string instruments.
One of them, yes. But this specific one, the Davidoff, has a heavy history. It was previously owned by the legendary Jacqueline Dupre.
Oh, wow. She was an absolute icon in the 60s and 70s, one of the most passionate, fiery players ever.
She was, but she famously had a very complicated, almost volatile relationship with this specific cello.
Really?
She was frustrated by its unpredictability. She felt like she couldn't quite tame it.
Why? What makes a cello unpredictable? I mean, isn't it just wood and strings?
It's wood that has been aging and vibrating for 300 years. These instruments have quirks. They react to humidity, to temperature, to the player's touch.
Okay.
Dupre's style was very impassioned. She was a force of nature. She attacked the strings. She dug in with heavy pressure.
And the cello didn't like that.
Ma says that Davidoff doesn't respond to attacks. It shuts down if you play too aggressively. He says it has to be coaxed.
You have to ask it nicely.
You have to seduce the sound out of it. It requires a specific temperament. It's almost like the cello itself rejected Dupre's style and waited for Ma because he had the patience to listen to what the instrument wanted to do. It fits his personality perfectly. He's not an aggressor. He's a conversationalist.
That is poetic. It's like the wand choosing the wizard.
It really is.
But then there's the other one, the one named Petunia.
Ah, yes. The 1733 Domenico Montagnana.
First of all, calling a 1733 masterwork worth millions of dollars, Petunia, is hilarious. It sounds like a cow's name. Where did that come from?
It's a great story, and it says so much about his lack of pretension. He was in Salt Lake City teaching a master class, and a high school student asked him if the cello had a name. Ma said no, he hadn't named it, but he made a deal with her.
What was the deal?
He said, if I play for you right now, will you name it?
High stakes for the student. You have to name Yo-Yo Ma's cello on the spot.
Right. He plays this beautiful piece, finishes, and looks at her, and the student just comes out with, Petunia.
And he kept it.
He loved it, and it's been Petunia ever since. It just shows he doesn't take the holiness of the instrument too seriously.
And Petunia's the one that has really been through the wars, right?
Yeah.
This is the cello involved in the infamous taxi incident.
Oh, this story gives every musician nightmares. It's 1999, New York City.
Okay.
Ma has just played a concert at Carnegie Hall. He's tired. He hops out of a yellow cab in Midtown Manhattan, pays the driver, walks to the hotel entrance. The cab drives off.
Oh, no.
And he realizes he left the cello in the trunk.
A cello worth what?
In 2005, it was valued at $2.5 million. So in 1999, it was still worth a small fortune.
I panic when I leave my umbrella in a cab. I cannot imagine the sinking feeling of watching a taxi drive away with an instrument like that. The panic must have been absolute.
It was actually the Montagnana Petunia, but yes, the panic was real.
Right.
Fortunately, it was New York City. The police mobilized instantly. The mayor got involved. They tracked down the cab receipt, found the driver, and it was returned quickly, completely undamaged.
Can you imagine being that cab driver? Opening your trunk and finding a national treasure?
He probably just thought it was a big guitar until the police showed up. But Ma got incredibly lucky there.
For sure.
However, he wasn't so lucky with the airport security situation later on.
No. This was much worse because it involved actual damage.
This was in Taiwan. The cello went through an X-ray baggage inspection.
You're supposed to hand carry those, aren't you?
Usually you buy a ticket for the cello. It sits in the seat next to you, Mr. Cellama.
Right.
But for some reason it went through the scanner, and something went wrong during the process. The neck was damaged.
Oh, ouch. That's the spine of the instrument.
It's catastrophic. And he had a concert to play immediately. He had to borrow another Stradivarius, the Paul, from the Chimey Museum nearby. But, and this shows his dedication, he managed to get Petunia Rush repaired by a local luthier, and he actually played both cellos in the concert.
Just to prove it could be done.
Ooh.
Or maybe to make Petunia feel better.
Maybe a bit of both. He swapped them out between pieces, but it highlights something important about Ma.
What's that?
He loves these old instruments, but he isn't precious about them in a snobbish way. He views them as tools that need to be used. If they break, you fix them.
Right, he's not keeping them in a glass case.
No. In fact, he even owns a carbon fiber cello made by a company called Lewis and Clark.
Really? Like a modern black plastic-looking thing?
Yes, and a modern wooden one by Peter and Wenda Lemos. He uses the carbon fiber one for outdoor concerts where humidity might crack a wooden cello, or for travel where he doesn't want to risk the Strad.
It's pragmatic.
He's not a purist who thinks only old things are good. He uses whatever tool works for the job.
Which perfectly leads us into his music. Because purist is definitely not the word critics use to describe him.
Not at all.
You mentioned the word omnivorous in the notes.
That is the critical consensus.
Yeah.
Omnivorous. He eats everything.
Most classical musicians find a lane. They do the Romantic period, or they specialize in Baroque.
Right.
Ma seems to have just driven off the road entirely and started exploring the woods.
He really has. And this goes back to the anthropology degree. If you believe that music is about human connection, then why would you limit yourself to just European music from the 18th and 19th centuries?
That's a great point.
That's only one tiny slice of the human experience.
So he branches out.
He has recorded American bluegrass. He's done traditional Chinese melodies. He's done Argentine tango, specifically the music of Astor Piazzolla. He's done Brazilian music.
And these aren't just Yo-Yo Ma plays pop cash grabs, are they? Because we've seen those albums where a symphony orchestra plays Beatles covers, and it's fine.
It's elevator music. It's muzak. Right. No, this is different. He dives deep into these genres. He treats them with the same seriousness and academic rigor that he treats Bach or Beethoven. He immerses himself in the culture.
Okay.
Take the Goat Rodeo Sessions.
I love that name. The Goat Rodeo Sessions. What does that even mean?
It's an aviation term, actually. A goat rodeo is a chaotic situation that requires a lot of skill to manage without it turning into a disaster.
A high wire act.
Exactly. It was a collaboration with Stuart Duncan, Edgar Meyer, and Chris Steil. These are bluegrass legends, virtuosos.
Right.
And Ma just jumped right in with them.
But isn't that difficult? I mean, bluegrass is rhythmic. It's improvised. It's a totally different skill set from reading a concerto.
It is, and it's not always comfortable for him. I read about his work with Bobby McFerrin.
Oh, don't worry, be happy. But McFerrin is...
Right.
He's a vocal genius.
An absolute genius. He's a one-man orchestra. But McFerrin is all about the moment. Changing things on the fly. Improvisation. Yo-Yo Ma is a classical musician. He is trained to play exactly what is on the page with perfection. Ma admitted he was absolutely terrified of McFerrin's improvisation.
It's like asking an architect to suddenly start abstract finger painting.
Exactly. He was scared of making a mistake, but he did it. He pushed through the fear because he wanted to understand that form of musical communication.
You got to learn that language.
He put himself in the position of a student again.
And then you have the pop collaborations.
Yeah.
He played While My Guitar Gently Weeps with Carlos Santana. He's worked with James Taylor. He even backed Miley Cyrus on a Metallica cover album.
Wait, pause. Miley Cyrus covering Metallica with Yo-Yo Ma.
I know.
That sounds like a Mad Lib generated by an AI.
It does sound absurd. It was for the Metallica Blacklist charity album. They did Nothing Else Matters. And honestly,
Yeah, was it?
it works. It just shows that he doesn't see high art and low art. He just sees art.
Right.
And I guess the culmination of this philosophy, the peak of his anthropological approach, is the Silk Road Ensemble.
Without a doubt. If you want to understand Yo-Yo Ma's legacy, it's not the 19 Grammys, it's the Silk Road Project.
Break that down for us. What is the Silk Road Ensemble?
He formed it to bring together musicians from countries that were historically linked by the Silk Road trade route. We're talking China, India, Iran, the Mediterranean, all the way to Europe.
So it's literally connecting the East and West through music,
Yeah.
just like goods were traded on the actual road.
Exactly. Spices, silk, and songs.
It's musical trade.
It is. He brings in a player of the Comanche, which is an Iranian bowed instrument, a tabla player from India, a bagpiper from Spain. And they don't just take turns playing solos.
They write together.
They write music together. They blend these traditions. It's a fusion.
It's more than fusion, though.
It's a conversation. It's his thesis statement. We are more alike than we are different. If we trade our stories and our songs, we understand each other better.
It's diplomacy through sound.
It's the anthropologist at work, using music to map the connections between civilizations.
Which brings us to perhaps the most impactful part of his career. We've talked about the prodigy, the anthropologist, the omnivore. But now I want to talk about the citizen musician. Because it feels like whenever the world breaks, Yo-Yo Ma shows up to try and glue it back together.
That is a role he has taken very seriously, especially since becoming a United Nations Messenger of Peace in 2006. He believes that a musician isn't just an entertainer.
Right.
He believes they are a citizen with a responsibility to the community.
Let's look at 9/11. That was a moment where words they failed everyone.
Yeah.
No politician knew what to say. The country was in shock.
It was a void of meaning. And on the first anniversary, September 11, 2002, he was at the site of the World Trade Center, Ground Zero.
Still a raw wound.
Oh, completely. As the first names of the dead were being read, he sat and played.
What did he play?
The Sarabande from Bach's Cellist Suite No. 5.
Why that piece? He has the whole repertoire. Why that specific movement?
Well, the Bach Cellist Suites are his touchstone. But the Sarabande from the Fifth Suite, it is incredibly sparse. It doesn't have a rhythmic pulse you can tap your foot to.
That's haunting.
It floats. It doesn't try to fix the grief or make it happy. It just sits with it.
It acknowledges the pain without trying to cover it up.
Exactly. It was the perfect choice. It provided a space for people to feel what they needed to feel.
And he did it again after the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yes. At the Interfaith Service in 2013, you have to remember, he's a Cambridge guy. He went to Harvard. He lives there.
Boston is his home.
It is. So that was personal. He played, and he also accompanied the Boston Children's Chorus. It was about healing his community.
He also seems to be the go-to guy for political funerals. He played at Senator Edward Kennedy's funeral.
With Placido Domingo, yes. They played Franck's Panis Angelicus.
Yeah.
He has become the designated mourner for the nation in many ways.
When words fail, we call Yo-Yo Ma. But it's not just tragedies. He's also there for the new beginnings, the inaugurations. And there is a great story about the Obama inauguration in 2009.
Oh, the wicked cold inauguration.
That's a direct quote from Ma, right? It was wicked cold. Which proves he's a true Bostonian.
It really does. It was freezing. And for string instruments, extreme cold is a disaster. Wood contracts, glue gets brittle, strings snap.
Oh, man.
They were terrified that in the middle of the performance, a string would just pop or the instrument would crack.
So what did they do? Did they have space heaters?
They couldn't risk it. They had to make a tough call. They recorded the piece 2 days prior in a studio. So when they were sitting there on stage with Zach Perlman and the others, they were playing live, they were moving their fingers, they were bowing with passion.
But what we heard was the recording.
But the sound coming out of the speakers and on TV was the recording.
Some people might call that lip syncing.
It essentially was. But Ma put it simply, a broken string was not an option. It wasn't about deception. It was about honoring the occasion. You don't want a technical disaster to ruin the inauguration of a president.
That's fair. It was a selfless act of professionalism.
It was.
Fast forward to 2021. The Biden inauguration. Totally different vibe. The pandemic is raging.
And he performed Amazing Grace, again, pre-recorded, but for a different reason, COVID restrictions. He couldn't travel freely with a full ensemble.
Right.
But speaking of the pandemic, there is one moment from that era that I think defines him better than any inauguration or any Grammy.
Is this the vaccine clinic story?
Yes, this is my favorite Yo-Yo Ma story. It captures everything we've been talking about.
Let's hear it.
March 2021, he goes to a community college in Massachusetts, Berkshire Community College, to get his second dose of the COVID vaccine.
Just getting in line like everyone else.
Just a regular guy in a mask. He gets his shot, and then he has to go to the observation area, you know, the plastic chairs in the gym where you have to wait 15 minutes to make sure you don't faint.
The most unglamorous setting possible. Fluorescent lights, gym floor, tired nurses.
Exactly. Except he brought his cello.
Of course he did.
And after he gets the shot, he just takes it out of the case and starts playing Ave Maria for the other people waiting in the room.
No cameras, no press release.
Just a cell phone video from a local resident. He wasn't doing it for publicity. He was doing it because people were anxious. They were scared. It was a dark time.
Wow.
And he thought, I have this tool that brings comfort. I should use it.
That captures that citizen musician ideal perfectly. Music is for service, whether it's for a president or for a nurse waiting for her shot in a gym.
It really emphasizes that the anthropology degree wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
He was there to improve the human condition in that room, even if just for 15 minutes.
Right.
He saw a tribe of people, vaccine recipients who were stressed, and he performed a ritual to help them.
I love that. Now, before we wrap up, we have to look at the lighter side. Because for a guy who plays back at tragedy sites and analyzes culture, he also pops up in some very weird places in pop culture.
He really does. And he has a strange relationship with his own fame. For example, do you know he has been a sex symbol?
Yo-Yo Ma, a sex symbol.
In 2001, People magazine named him Sexiest Classical Musician.
Which is quite a niche title. That feels like a category they made up just for him.
Probably. And he hated it. He called it the worst epithet he's ever faced. He was mortified.
He's a serious intellectual.
Exactly. But then he couldn't escape it. In 2012, AARP named him one of the 21 sexiest men over 50. So clearly, the charisma translates.
He's also been a cartoon.
Multiple times. He was on Arthur, the kids' show. He was on The Simpsons, though fun fact, in one Simpsons episode, he was voiced by Hank Azaria, not himself.
Oh, that's interesting.
But he did appear on Sesame Street way back in the 80s, jamming with the Muppets.
And recently, he had a cameo in Glass Onion, the Knives Out mystery movie on Netflix.
Which was hilarious. He's at a party in the background, and he chimes in to explain a piece of music. It's a fugue, essentially playing the music nerd version of himself.
It shows he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Not at all. He's willing to be the punchline if it's fun.
I also found this detail about his ancestry fascinating. We know his parents were musicians, but the line goes back way further than that.
It's incredible. During the Cultural Revolution in China, a relative actually hid the Ma family genealogy book inside a wall to save it from being destroyed by the Red Guards.
Inside a wall, like bricked it up.
Yes, it was that dangerous to have records of old traditions. And because they saved that book, they can trace his lineage back 18 generations to the year 1217.
That is mind-boggling.
And supposedly they can trace the surname Ma back to a common ancestor in the 3rd century BC.
Talk about anthropology. He is literally connected to ancient history.
And he's looking to the future and the stars, too. He performed at the Paranal Observatory in the Atacama Desert in Chile.
Why there?
Just because he's interested in astronomy, he wanted to play for the telescopes.
Playing cello for the universe.
It fits, doesn't it?
It really does. So let's zoom out. If we look at this entire picture, the tiny kid with the tiny cello who wanted the big bass, the Harvard anthropologist, the Silk Road connector, the guy playing Ave Maria in a vaccine clinic. What is the big takeaway here?
I think the takeaway is that Yo-Yo Ma proves that technical mastery is just the entry fee.
Just the beginning.
It is. There are thousands of cellists who can play the notes perfectly. Juilliard churns them out every year. But the reason Yo-Yo Ma is because he uses that mastery to build bridges.
He realized the cello wasn't the point.
Right. He realized early on, probably during those anthropology lectures at Harvard, that the cello is just a piece of wood. The point is the connection with the listener.
It's not about the output, it's about the outcome.
Precisely. Whether he's connecting notes in a phrase, connecting genres like bluegrass and classical, or connecting people in a time of crisis, he is the ultimate connector.
There was a story he told at the Hollywood Bowl that I think perfectly sums this up. It was after a marathon performance. He played all 6 Bach suites in one sitting, which is just physically exhausting.
A massive undertaking. That's like running a marathon.
And at the end, sweating and tired, he told a story about Pablo Casals.
Ah, yes. Casals was the godfather of modern cello playing, a hero of Ma's.
Ma told the crowd about how Casals, when he was just 13 years old, was digging through a secondhand music store in Barcelona.
Okay.
And he found an old, dusty, tattered copy of the Bach suites. At the time, nobody really cared about them. They were considered just warm-up exercises, boring technical drills.
They had been forgotten.
But Casals saw something in them. He didn't throw them away. He took them home. He studied them for years. He polished them. And he eventually brought them to the world as these masterpieces we know today.
He saw value where others saw junk.
Exactly. And Ma's advice to the audience at the Hollywood Bowl was, if there are any 13-year-olds here, don't throw anything away.
That is profound.
I love that. It's such a simple idea. Value the old things. Value the things that other people might overlook. Because you never know what masterpiece is hiding in a secondhand store.
Or in a 300-year-old wooden box that needs to be coaxed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, to our listeners, take a look around your own life. What old stuff or forgotten history might be hiding the next masterpiece for you? Don't throw anything away. Thanks for diving in with us.
A pleasure.